Welcome back. Let's talk about the idea of imperative versus declarative. What does that mean? Well, imperative code is code that tells the machine what to do and how to do it. Declarative code tells it what to do and what should happen. It doesn't tell the computer how to do things. Still confused? Well, think of it this way. A computer is better at being imperative. That is, it needs to know how to do things. We, on the other hand, as humans, are more declarative. If I tell my friend, hey, can you pass me that jug of water? Well, I don't need to tell my friend, hey, can you walk over there with your right hand, pick up the jug, come towards me, give it to me, and then release the jug into my hand. I don't have to tell it. Humans are declarative. And if you remember, when we talked about JavaScript engines, you can see this example here too. Machine code is very imperative. We say, put the variable in this memory space and then take it out here and modify it here. It's very descriptive of how to do things. Versus as we go higher and higher up the chain to something like a higher level language, well, that becomes more declarative. We don't have to say, hey, this is where you should store the memory. We just declare a variable with some sort of data and we say what we need to get done, but not how to do it. The computer takes care of that for us. Another great example of imperative versus declarative is the idea of for loops, where we have for let I of, let's say, equals to 0, and then we say I is less than 1,000, increment I, and then in here console.log I. Would you say that's imperative or declarative? I mean, it's all on a spectrum, but this is pretty imperative, right? We say declare a variable 0, and then loop for 1,000 times, and then also increment I and console log I. There's a lot of instruction here. How can we make this more declarative? Well, I can simply say, let's say we have an array of 1,000 items, and I can say for each item in the array, just console.log the item. So that if I do something like this, I get 1, 2, 3. You can see that this is a lot more declarative. I don't tell the program what to do or how to do it. Simply, well, here's an array. For each array and each item, just console log the item. I don't tell it to increment I by 1 and to loop through things. This is more declarative than this one. Another classic example of this is jQuery. jQuery is a lot more imperative than what we have now on the front-end frameworks like React, Angular, or Vue. Because with jQuery, we told our website exactly what to do. Hey, if the user clicks on the HTML, then grab the drop-down menu and then hide it. Hey, if something happens with the drop-down menu, well then look at the sibling and then hide that. We tell it exactly what to do, but also how to do it. Versus if you look at something like React, and this is a project that we worked on another one of my courses. If I go to components and we look at card component, for example, React is fairly imperative. We have a function here that takes in some parameters and then returns a piece of HTML. We don't tell it what to display and how to do it. Just simply, hey, this is the data. Can you just display this? Even if we go into something like app.js, and if you've never seen React before, don't get scared. This is not important. I just want to show you the idea behind it. You see that I have an is pending and a loading. And I'm simply saying, hey, if is pending is to true, then just do a loading screen. Otherwise, just load up the card list. I don't tell React how to do things. I just tell it, hey, this is what I want. This is more declarative. Why am I teaching you this? Because functional programming helps us be more declarative. By using functions and what we'll learn eventually, which is composing functions, we tell our programs what to do instead of how to do it. Now, I know that that's still hard to understand, and we'll keep working on that understanding throughout the next couple of videos. But it's important here to remember that when we talk about declarative and imperative, declarative code is always going to end up either compiling down or being processed by something imperative, like machine code, right? At the end of the day, we can't just avoid side effects and data manipulation, right? At the end of the day, something has to manipulate the DOM on a web page or talk to a database. In the case of something like React, yes, it abstracts away a lot of this complexity so that we as programmers don't have to do it. But the React library itself, and even functional languages like Lisp or Haskell, eventually have to compile and do imperative things. But the idea is for us to go a step higher, a level higher into declarative code so that it's easier to read and we can be more productive. So that is imperative versus declarative. Let's move on to another important concept.